You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the radio voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. Well, I'm Bill McIntyre here with John Gallo for another edition of this week's Long Island News, the news show that brings you news stories about Long Island and Long Islanders. And today we have a very special show. We have a very special guest in studio with us, Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick J. Ryder. Now, Commissioner Ryder, for nearly 2 years now, has been in charge of over 2,400 law enforcement officers whom are responsible for the safety of more than 1.3 million Nassau County residents. The commissioner has an extensive and decorated law enforcement background of more than 35 years, starting in the NYPD during the 80s and serving now 33 years here in Nassau. Well, he grew up in East Rockaway, moved to Long Island with his family, and graduated from Lynbrook High School. He then continued his academic career right here at Nassau Community College, ultimately going on to receive a master's degree in Homeland Security and Management from LIU in Riverhead. In addition to being a New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services certified law enforcement instructor, advisory board member for criminal justice at SUNY Farmingdale, he has also trained members of law enforcement agencies internationally in Egypt, South Africa, and Turkey. And he's currently back where he started, at Nassau Community College, serving students as an adjunct professor of criminal justice and intelligence-led policing. And first, we want to thank you for spending part of your Valentine's Day with us.
Great to be here.
We should probably thank your wife, Jill, for letting us have you for a little time here.
She would be more than happy to keep me here.
As long as you got the flowers and the chocolates already, right?
That's it.
Oh, that's a riot. Well, so it's been a hell of a 2 years, huh?
It's been a rough ride. It's a good ride, though.
Yeah.
It's a good ride.
What I was curious, thinking about you, like getting into the job. What was there that you maybe weren't prepared for? What was something that was different than you thought it was going to be when you got in?
I'm a cop. This is my 37th year in law enforcement, and when you look at things, you look at it from the cop perspective. Now I'm a manager. I'm a budget guy. I'm a politician. I'm a, fix all these problems type person. I get phone calls all during the night, whether it's from a homicide or a cop injured, or to somebody got arrested, or there's a question by somebody that a politician received a complaint from one of their constituents. But I take all of them, and my guys go out there, the men and women of Nassau County Police, and serve the people with pride. They do the right thing in Nassau County day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot to be proud of because, we look... one of John and I's problems is that we have to stay up on the news, but trying to stay sane at the same time is very difficult.
Yeah, can be at times.
And I imagine for you that must result too. Some of the crimes that we read about, they're horrific. And, you're riding herd on those things. Kudos to you. And Nassau County's got a great record as far as, you don't hear a lot about, Wild West shootouts and things like that in our county.
We are the safest county for its size in the country. Hands down. In 2010, we started our intel-led policing run, if you will. Since then, we've reduced crime 30%. And that was back then they were saying that we were one of the safest counties for its size. We reduced it 30%. Homicides last year were record lows. We used to average about 2,000 burglaries in Nassau County a year. Last year, we had 305.
Wow.
Yeah. And so these are the things that we work through the intelligence side, through intelligence-led policing, getting our detectives the best tools to do their job, getting our cops the best tools to do their job. School safety is the number one concern on every parent out there today.
Right.
And the opiate crisis. We've reduced opiates 2 years ago by 25%, and we have another reduction this year about 15%.
That's great.
Yeah, that is. Okay, we have a whole list of things here we can talk about, and.
You want to start maybe close to home? I know last time when you were on air, you spoke a little bit about the new police academy that's opening up right here off campus. You want to maybe give us an update about where that stands?
Yeah, so I think the last time we hadn't even broken ground at the time, but right now it's just about 1 year of a 2-year project. We're at 48% completed.
Okay.
It's over at the east side of the campus, right by the Meadowbrook. Mm-hmm. You can see it if you go around through the back end of the school there. You'll see the construction going up. The prefab walls are already up. All of the steel has been installed. The roofing is going on. So we're moving pretty quickly. The contracting team has done a great job. The county DPW has done a phenomenal job organizing all the pieces to move around there. And we're the gatekeeper. We're just waiting for the keys to take over,
Okay.
and we're starting the interior design of a lot of things that need to be in there. We live on a very diverse county, in a very diverse county.
Definitely.
The college that we teach at, that I teach at, is a very diverse community college.
Mm-hmm.
By putting it there on the campus, in that very diverse communities that we surround, we'll bring those type of people in. And look, that's the future cops of Nassau County. They're the future lawyers. They're the future district attorneys.
Right.
So let them be part of our law enforcement community early on, and we'll cross-train with the college as our partner. So it'll be a great...
That's a good idea, because then you don't have that side and this side. We're
all together,
mixing
working together.
Yep, perfect.
You know, that's big. People don't really get that.
Oh, yeah.
That is big.
To that point, I know we had a new graduating class in November come into the law enforcement now fully. And I guess it looks like you were saying that there's always a push for more diversity. And is that what we're seeing now in the numbers? Are we starting to see more and more again?
Unfortunately, not as much as we'd like.
Oh, okay.
So it's civil service testing.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you take the test, then you got to go through the background check. You got to go through lie detector test, drug testing, backgrounds in your community. You got to have the education. So all of that falls into place, and we start dropping those that are in that group. So we're getting there. We're better at it. We recruit heavily in the minority communities to bring them in, because we want them. We want to be more reflective of what the community looks like.
Yeah,
you know,
makes sense.
We go into a community, and it's great that you have a cop out there, but they'd like to see a cop that is more understanding. And so if we can't beat them by the hiring process, meaning we can't get enough of them, we spend a lot of time to educate our cops about the environments they police.
Okay.
Understanding what Ramadan means in the Muslim community, what the high holy days in the Jewish community, understanding Easter and Good Friday in the Catholic So the religions, but there's so many different groups out there because we are so diverse. Yesterday I was with the pastor of a Protestant group up in Port Washington, and he said we want to get more involved in the police department. So we're constantly working with our clergy to make us more reflective of the community, to make us more involved in the community, and to make our cops better understand what they police.
Yeah,
makes perfect
sense. Well, and in the political arena too, you're up against that idea that minorities, they're not sure what your connection is with the ICE people.
Yep.
So they'll stay away from everything that has to do with law enforcement because they just are afraid.
We live in such a divisive world right now. It's either one way or the other. There's nobody working in between. Nobody's cooperating together. And that's sad when you look at it. From the law enforcement side, we stay out of politics. Yeah. We at least we try to stay out of politics.
It's not easy.
Sometimes we get pulled in.
Yeah.
The ICE situation right now in Nassau County, we don't work with ICE regarding just strictly undocumented, and that's their job. That's their focus.
Right.
We will assist them when asked. We will work with them when needed. We work with ICE, though, on homeland security issues. We work with ICE on drug cases, human trafficking, and so forth.
Yeah.
But we don't get involved in the actual immigration side of it. That's the immigration office that does it. But if called to assist, we will always assist all of our federal partners.
Right.
But we also then got to go back and make sure the community understands what we're doing and why we do it. And like I said, it's complicated, but we have a great relationship with the Hispanic community in Nassau County. We continue to work hard to make those relationships strong. Mm-hmm. We work at it from the county side, and we work from the police department side.
Yeah, I know it's not realistic, but like I was telling you, I'm an old guy, and I remember I'm thinking really of like Brooklyn or Manhattan when they used to have the beat cop. Mm-hmm. And then if they had a problem on 14th Street or whatever, well, call Fred. He's the beat cop on there. Oh, yeah, I know Joe Palooka over there and Bobby and Fred, Go find out what's going on. And then sometime, I guess it was in the 70s, I'm guessing, or maybe a little before that, the beat cops kind of went away and they sat in a car and now they just drive around.
It's more economic, to have a vehicle to move around.
Yeah.
But we do lose that human interaction.
Your hand on the pulse.
Yeah. And I just had a meeting with the Roosevelt community about a week ago, Bishop Mackey, and I sat down with him and about 40 people, and the concern is about the interaction with police in the community. Yeah. Sometimes we start to lose touch a little bit. We got to get back in there. And the one thing that came up he said, we used to have a cop walk the post. We knew who the cop was. Yeah. We had a cop on a bicycle. We knew who the cop was. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury to do that all the time. But what we've done is start to move our community policing more focus back towards direct relationships with the community, increasing community affairs, increasing our POP officers that patrol that area and go out and do the community projects. We've added a COPE team that's in there also out there. We brought back the Too Good for Drugs program. We brought back the gang resistance program. We have a youth police academy. We do a civilian police academy. And we try to heavily recruit from the communities that we feel that the let's call it the love is not there between both sides.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
We got to bring it together.
Yeah.
And we had a great meeting with Bishop Mackey. Then Legislator Kavan Abrams had a meeting the next night. And again, the community has concerns. If we don't listen to these concerns, we're not going to make things better.
Yeah.
There's always a solution to a problem if those people are willing to communicate back and forth. The community spoke. We're going to work to solve some problems.
One of the other things along that same line is that, at one point, and maybe it's a too strong a word to use, but it's like the militarization of the police department. When they started to get gear that looked like, you guys are going to war. This is not about, hanging out in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I think that has an effect on the public, too.
Sure.
I think there's one faction that would say, well, they should feel better that we have this stuff. And then there's another faction that says you're scaring the crap out of us when you drive these tanks through my neighborhood. What's the benefit and what's the downside?
So, you go into different communities and you get a different reaction. So I can go down to the Five Towns Jewish community on the Sabbath, and if my cops get out of their vehicles with their black BSO tactical gear and their long guns, they're applauding. They love it.
Oh, yeah?
They love it because there's a lot of hate crime. Hate crime is on the rise.
I would have thought that would have maybe evoked another image. That maybe they didn't.
They're strong supporters of law enforcement. They're very concerned about the attacks that have happened around the world and here in the country, like Pittsburgh. So they're always. I've been in the last with the county exec in the last 4 months. I've been in more. Temples on a Saturday during the Sabbath than I probably spent my entire life in the Catholic Church because they want us there. They want us to speak about what we're doing.
Are up, 30%,
yeah,
40%,
and there's a concern.
Like yeah.
So, but if I go into other communities like that, they say, hey, what's with the police state? Why are you being, And sometimes we got to recognize when we push that button and when we don't, and when we move it out. But school safety is the number one concern. If I got out in front of a school with an armed guard, some parents would be, whoa, what's this? What's going on? On the other side, the parents would say, hey, that's what I want to see. I want my kids protected.
Because, see, as a kid, I remember the only time I saw guys with machine guns was when I was watching TV, and it was Israel. And that's the only. And so when I started to see them in Penn Station after 9/11, and sometimes before, depending on what the security threat was at the time, I think, that's just the generation I come from. And my heart goes out. I feel so badly for kids in school that have to be a part of active shooter drills.
Yeah,
I really do.
But we went through the drills of that. Russia was going to drop the bomb and crawl under our desk.
We did a thing where we used to go out in the hallway and you go against it. And I only found out when I was in my 50s that because we all thought, this will save us. Maybe the holes are stronger. I found out later on that was so when they had to come and dig up. They only had to do the main hallway, and they would find all the bodies. And I thought, oh, my God, in all those years we thought this was, going to save us.
Not the easiest thing to tell a kindergartner, I'm sure.
No, exactly.
But what? Back then we all looked at it as part of the drill. Now these kids, because of social media, because of the way the information gets out to the level of these kids, and all these kids are all walking around with their iPhones in fourth grade.
I know. That's another issue. Yeah.
But because of that, they're seeing the reality of what life is. And then when they're drilling on an active shooter drill and where to go and what corner and the door locked and numbering windows, they know it's real.
They take it seriously.
And they take it serious. The fire drills, look, we all went through the motions. Nobody's died in a school fire in 50 years in this country.
Yeah, no, right.
But school shootings are on the rise. And when they train on that, they say, wow, this is serious.
Yeah. Well, just a reminder now, you're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. And I'm Bill McIntyre along with John Gallo. And today in our studio, very special guest, Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick J. Ryder.
Just wanted to bring it back to the community policing aspect that you were speaking about. I know we talked about obviously reaching out to minority populations ethnically, but also we were wondering before a little bit about maybe reaching out to the hearing impaired, the vision impaired, what the county is doing for kind of even people with special needs to reach out and kind of serve that population as well.
So we do a lot of educational stuff. We have a card now that goes out and is distributed in all our precincts, that if someone came in that is hearing impaired, we'd be able to address that issue. We have the ability to go to what's called the language line. Every single police car in Nassau County has an iPhone in it now. Every desk has that ability also, that we can dial into the language line. We can ask for a person that can sign. They can then get on and look at the photo back and forth and continue to speak to them, like FaceTiming them.
So live translation. Then.
That's correct.
Oh,
and
great.
we can do the same we can do also the same FaceTime with language. So if I have somebody, if I don't speak the language, whatever that language is, German, I can get somebody on the line and they can communicate for me so we can get the communication. So that helps us in communicating to both the language issues that we suffer from, the fact of those that are hearing impaired or are blind. We have that ability to communicate, so it makes it a lot easier.
I think one of the stories that actually there were one or two of them, and people who were maybe not severely mentally ill, but maybe you couldn't tell. And there were a couple of really sad stories from New York. They pumped some guy, full of bullets. And so I think that's a big concern since the autism rate on Long Island is very high. You got a lot of kids who don't respond to a question, and it's scary to think, a guy's going to come on a scene like this and he's going to think that this kid is ignoring him and then what do we do? And if people have asked before, if you have a taser, why don't you use that before you use the gun, kind of thing?
So we have a thing called the REACH program, Return Every Adult and Child Home. Anybody that suffers from a cognitive disorder, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether you have Down syndrome, whether you have autism, we will pre-register you into our program. We'll give you a wristband. We'll give you an ID card. And if you're not a communicator, we can see that wristband on the child's wrist and know that he's in our REACH program.
That's excellent.
The mom, if the child goes missing, mom can pick up the phone and say, my son just went missing. Normally we'll send a cop to the house, we'll ask for a picture, we'll show the picture around. Now she turns around, he's in the REACH program. His name is John Smith. We'll bring it up. Is this your son? Yes. One push of a button. Every police car in Nassau County has it. We could pump it to the media.
We could. In there?
No, not yet, but we're getting there. So there are bracelets that are
people,
being
I guess, would have to agree to let that happen.
That's correct.
But that would be great. Somebody's lost, especially older folks who.
And we have those that are autistic that have the repeat offenders, as we call them. They're constantly going missing. They're the one mom and dad have with the state has a program that you can get a band that has a chip in it.
That's great.
Oh, okay.
You folks out there listening to this, because that's that they would have to contact
the Nassau County Police Department, and we'll help you set that
and
up.
just say, here's my deal. I've got a kid that's and I'm worried about him. Great, that's cool. Didn't know about that.
You want to maybe also just finish up on school safeties, maybe some of the initiatives that are being done on both college campuses and high schools, like you said, to keep kids safe in Long Island?
So we have 56 school districts in Nassau County, public school system. And we have, out of them, there's 450 buildings. Then you got your Catholic schools and you got your yeshivas. Then you also got your colleges. There's 3 major colleges here in Nassau County. We're responsible for the safety of all of them. So everybody, they have their own security, but we're also responsible for the safety as the police department. In every single public school in Nassau County right now is the Rave App. So that app gives them the ability to bypass the 911 system, not have to dial. They can just push a button. It is geofenced and sends us the signal saying, at this school right now, there's an active shooter going on.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like a bank robbery or something.
It goes to a separate terminal. We can communicate without them if they can't speak. So they can listen, and then we can also listen if they can speak, but again, through that same app. We know then it gets us there quicker. Response time in Nassau County is anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Most active shooters are over in 2 minutes. So we need to close that gap, that 2 to 3 minute gap. We've done assessments on every public school and every public library. We've also put the Rave App in public libraries, yeshivas, Catholic schools. We've done the assessments for security. So they know what's needed. We tell them, our experts, go out, walk the grounds. You should lock these doors. You should open these doors. You should open these blinds, close these blinds, number these windows, one access control. We go through a lot of different things to show them. by making them more stronger in their, and fortified, if you will, not that we want to say it's a police state, but more fortified at the school, that slows down the shooter. By getting us there faster, that mitigates the damages. It's impossible to say that we're going to turn around and make every kid 100% safe.
Of course.
Yeah.
But we're working real close to get to that number. And we trained every single principal and every superintendent in the county. We've trained a lot of the schools. We've done practice drills with them. We've given the technology. We've done the assessments. And every one of my cops now carries a tactical vest and tactical helmet that they can put on when they respond to that school. So there's no waiting. We go in, and what's called an active shooter, we go in. We don't wait like we did in Columbine when kids were getting killed.
Or Parkland,
Right.
I hear you. Yeah, I guess, would you want to finish anything else on schools? I know big thing is the school cameras.
The schools, I'm not a big fan of cameras. I know that the county is, I don't know.
But are we seeing success with that program, with the school zone, I guess, speeding cameras and red light cameras around schools?
So we have red light cameras in Nassau County. We do not have speed cameras.
Oh, we don't. Okay.
We took the speed cameras away. I'm a proponent of speed cameras, and I'll tell you why. Especially by a school. People get upset that they weren't, and again, they didn't roll it out correctly. The county took ownership to that when that happened. But when you go by a school, you've been driving by that school for 30 years.
Yeah.
The school's been there for 100 years. Now we got to give you a warning to slow down.
Right.
But I got it, so we should have rolled it out. You can't make an argument when somebody breaks the law and they speed through a speed camera, and then the argument is, I wasn't told it was there. Doesn't matter.
Right.
If there was a cop sitting there, you would have got the same ticket with his radar gun.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
I don't really have a problem with the speed. There's one school I do have a problem with it because all of the kids in the school are severely handicapped.
Yeah.
There's nobody going to run across the street.
Right.
And there's a speed camera.
Yeah.
And you
not
just
anymore. Not in Nassau.
And you say, well, wait a minute, what's that about?
But you understand the underlying purpose behind it.
And we talked about this last time, and the commissioner came back and said it saves lives.
Yeah, exactly. Results.
Okay, the argument's over.
Right.
There's no
There was a money grab in it. There was money, but look, every penalty, everything you do has to have some sort of penalty, or you're going to continue to do it.
Of course, disincentives.
What we were going to? I was going to ask you about.
Was it off of that?
Went out of my head. Go ahead.
Okay. I guess maybe just a segue also about technology, like the cameras. We're reading recently that it looks like the Nassau County Police Department have an agreement with Nest regarding porch pirates. I know that's become a big issue out here. Right. I guess maybe you want to speak a little bit more about that, and also maybe cyber crimes too. We know that's another growing kind of concern for police departments.
So I don't. This is not a pitch for Nest, but I will tell you this: every house in Nassau County should have a doorbell ring, and I'll tell you why. It's one of the best evidence gatherers that we've found in years. The quality is phenomenal. The pictures are great, and it's on motion. So when somebody moves into that area, the light goes on, the camera goes on, and it records it and keeps it for you. What Nest does for us is that we can go into an area and we could say, there's a crime by the H building over at the Nassau Community College. Give me everybody that has a camera in a 1 mile radius. So they'll say, okay, there's 58 cameras in there.
Okay.
They do all the work for us. And then they go to the 58 customers and they say, the police department had a crime. Are you willing to share your video? All the customer has to do is say yes or no.
I see, an opt-in program.
And if they say yes, Nest then creates the video and Nest sends it to us.
Wow.
And then we analyze it. It's a great tool. It really, really is. And it's helped us tremendously in a lot of crimes.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I know that there's been websites where communities are sharing that information themselves, like off of Patch and other types of things. But that's interesting to see that now there's a direct relationship between.
And the biggest concern always comes in. Look, the ACLU, they're always trying to protect everybody's rights, and I get that.
Of course.
And they got their argument. But this is a private camera on a private piece of property that somebody invaded their space.
Yeah.
And we don't look at, we'll give them the time period. We only need 1 hour of that video or 15 minutes of that video, and they'll provide it to us. And then we'll catch guys from
But you're still asking the people if they can, so it's not like you're
we're not taking it.
commandeering their cameras.
And I do not have access to see it. Unless they give it to me.
See, there was a scary thing on TV. Well, scary because at the time nobody knew it was possible. Somebody walked through London and actually followed him with cameras. The man never left the side of a camera, and he walked through the whole city.
Yeah, facial recognition software. I know we've talked about it a little bit. Is it correct, our understanding, that the county doesn't participate in that program? I know Suffolk was trying it out, but...
Yeah, so here's what happens in facial recognition. So that program that you're talking about is a software program for the internet.
Yeah.
But from facial recognition in general... we don't have the volume of traffic to start doing facial recognition. It's not here, right? In New York City, in the subways and stuff, again, if it works for the value, it works. The program that they were talking about was that you could take a picture. I could take your photo right now, and I could send it into this software, and anywhere you appeared on the internet, where you gave yourself up to the internet, you did your Facebook or anything like that, they scan it, they find it, and they send it back. So they'll take 20 photos. They showed me a sample of it. They took my picture, and up came all these photos that came off the internet. And I'm like, wow! And within seconds. But again, there's a challenge. Are we going too far? And then there's a balance between safety. And every time 9/11 happened, they'd give us everything.
Yep.
When 9/11 starts to get further and further away, we forget and we start taking things away.
But I still think once Pandora's box has been opened, I don't think it really matters. You got artificial intelligence. Somebody could be tinkering in their garage, and they're going to come up with something, and it's just going to. That's it. I don't think we can rein it in once it goes.
We've had crimes in Nassau County, murders that have occurred that we'd go and we'd get a doorbell ring here, we'd get a commercial camera over there. And these are people that privately own them. They're not even our cameras. They're cameras that are privately owned.
Which is great, because then the county's not...
we're not paying for them.
That's true.
So we do have our cameras in areas that we have concerns about. If there's a high crime area or there's an ongoing problem.
They have a gunshot thing, too, don't they? Have like microphones out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me tell you about ShotSpotter. And ShotSpotter was rolled out into the Roosevelt and Uniondale area. At the time, we had a gang problem called the Rolling 60s. We had probably about 35... murders that year. About 15 of them belonged to almost, maybe even higher, 15 to 20 belonged in the Roosevelt and Uniondale area. It was off the hook. We had to shut it down. And it was in the year we rolled it out, we detected 377 shootings.
Wow.
Last year, 16. The year before that, 15. The year before that, 16. Wow. We've not only lowered it, we've sustained it. We're trying to get it even lower. Again, but the community... we built trust in. I don't have access to turn on the microphones of ShotSpotter and listen to street corners. I don't even have that access. Right. But what it does is it collects data. When there's a shooting, we start move your resources here. Put a camera there. Put a license plate reader over there. Yeah. That's where the shootings are happening. We locked up the Rolling 60s. They all were prosecuted, both state and federal. They are now removed from the environment, doing their lifetime sentences. Right. And then the crime in Roosevelt and Uniondale went down dirt low. And then
in your office you sit and say, okay, who's next?
Yeah. Well, we've expanded
What's coming down the pike now?
We've expanded ShotSpotter to other communities for the fact, and we get the buy-in then because we proved the concept. Right. We went back and said, look, guys, here's what happened. This is what happened in this community. Look what we did. Right. And we never, ever invaded anybody's privacy.
Yeah. Always evidence-based.
That's rough. But, I think that, all the sci-fi and all the TV is working against you, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, people have done the old experiment. You take the cell phone and tell everybody else to put theirs in the box and just leave it on the kitchen table. Now talk about a product you would never buy.
Yep.
And within 10 minutes on your Facebook page, you're getting prodded by Bob's Soap Company or, some... So... I think the people need to get the idea, yes, you are being listened to, whether you like it. What they do with it is a whole other thing. But ever since they developed terabyte computers, all the information is good because we can keep it all.
That's true. There's a storage space for it. And speaking about listening, let's remind our listeners that they are listening to us here on This Week's Long Island News with our special guest, Patrick Ryder, the Police Commissioner of Nassau County. So
thanks, John.
Yeah.
That's one of those legal IDs you got it. We got so many things here. Well, one of the next things we have on the list here is like the environmental polluters, things like that. How do we go,
So our Department of Public Works, the Department of Health, they go out and we work with them if they need us to assist them. But how we stop pollution and we stop is people got to pick up the phone and call. Right. We need you to help us, because you can't have eyes everywhere. So you see somebody dumping stuff into the sump, you call us. Right. You see somebody that's draining their pool and they're draining it right into the sewer, you got to call us. And it may be a proper way to do it, but there's also rules on when you can do it and how you can do it. You see people dumping, paint down the sewer. No good. Call us.
Yeah.
All your Department of Public Works and your sanitation's department, they take all of that stuff. They just take it at the right time. You can go to the town of Hempstead right here on certain days and drop off paint cans that are full of paint. They'll take them. Right. And believe it or not, they mix them, redo them, and they actually use them again. They really? Recycle it. Sure.
There you go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Computer attacks. As a matter of fact, I have a personal experience with that. One of my sister's companies that she works at got nailed for, I think they wanted $30,000 as the
ransomware
to open, give them the password to their own computers.
Yeah,
that's happening a lot now, and it concerns us. I mean, we read the stories with an election coming, and you've got people who can walk in and out of someone else's computer like it was nothing. We all have this sense that they're all, locked up tight and nobody can get in, and that's apparently the farthest from the truth.
So everybody should have backup to their hard drive, right? So you should have an additional hard drive that you back up your data to, because once they're in it and the virus is taking over the computer, it's gone. We don't, unless you're storing it in the cloud, and a lot of people do use the cloud-based storage program. Right. If not, then you need an additional hard drive. The problem is people open stuff they don't know what they're opening. They answer people they shouldn't answer. Hi. Hello, Pat. Yeah. This is John. I'm a friend of your brother's. He was just involved in an accident. I need you to wire me $10,000 because they're locking him up here.
Right, of course.
Well, Pat should pick up the phone and call his brother to confirm if something is wrong.
Yeah.
Many times they find out that their loved one is home sitting on a couch watching TV.
It's the old folks, though, that I think really, hey, Grandma, and they just get scared.
Absolutely.
I know people that's happened to. Luckily, they didn't send any money.
And to that point, too, we've seen a lot of issues with robocalls. We know that the Department of Justice is now investigating a individual in Great Neck, actually, for maybe being one of those spots that really sent out millions of these robocalls with scams. Mm-hmm. Is there any, again, county involvement in that type of investigation? Or
So we'll take the complaints, we look at them, but a lot of times we'll use the federal government to assist us on that, because it's not just in Nassau County. These calls may be coming from Russia. They may be coming from the Midwest.
It was India in this case, exactly.
Yeah. Anytime your phone rings, hang it up if it ain't somebody you want to speak to. Don't speak to these robocalls. Yep. I've been getting probably 30 calls about my warranty on my truck is up. I haven't had a warranty on my truck in 15 years.
Yeah, you know what the shame is I don't know. They people don't answer their phones anymore for exactly that reason. And you think, you guys are going to be the reason why it's an obsolete piece of equipment, unless you're going to leave a message.
Well, that's why they've gone to the computer world to advertise. You'll go on the computer and up will pop a commercial or something that's on it trying to get you to go. No one wants to pick up the phone and speak because it's that robocall, and most people don't use their house phones, but now they're calling your cell phones. Once you give your information out, it's out.
Yep.
You can't pull it back.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's true.
Yeah. Thankfully, we do see those sometimes. I know I get on my phone the scam likely. I know some phone carriers are starting to catch up with the times, thankfully, and legislators as well. I guess another thing that we spoke about a little bit before, maybe off air, that we can maybe follow up a little bit more now is the issue of substance abuse, obviously out in the area. Not just the opioid crisis, which is what we definitely need to speak about too, but the issue of drinking and driving. Could you talk about some of the progresses, again, made specifically in both of those?
So last year, deaths on the road went down related to alcohol. That's a good thing.
Yep, definitely.
But we got new challenges. We all know that the legalization of marijuana is on the rise. It's coming.
Yep, we were going to talk about that next.
Right.
On the horizon.
Right. We'll see what happens. But we can't test for it. That's the problem.
Exactly.
So we have what's called our drug recognition experts. We train our cops to go out and watch for certain signs that will say that the person is stoned and we should arrest them, right? But then we get them inside, and then there's other testing that gets done. It's a heavy burden to law enforcement on how to test. The old ways, breathalyzer, blow into the machine, boom.
Right,
we also do the SFST test, where you're walking in stagnant eyes and so forth. But now there's no way to test like we did before.
Yeah.
That's going to make it harder.
Right.
But, I will say this. Our kids are so much smarter. True. The Uber business made billions of dollars because of the fact that kids are smarter. They know, I'm not going to drink and drive.
Yeah.
Call the Uber.
Yep.
And we'll call me. I'll come pick you up.
I can thank I believe the schools at that time, because my daughter grew up with the DARE program, which they got rid of. But I credit that for their attitude.
Yep.
Because, man, it was 180 degrees out of when I grew up. They were just, oh, no, it would never do that. I was like, where did you get this?
And the bar business hasn't suffered in Nassau County.
Oh,
No, exactly.
Well, see,
They're packed.
I talked to the county executive about that when she was here. We talked about, and I use the example of town of Farmingdale because that's where I grew up. There's 15 bars in the town of Farmingdale.
Restaurant bars.
Well, then there's restaurants,
Yeah.
but there are, dance halls kind of. They're not really serving food. They're just, I called it gentrification. She called it something else, revitalization.
Yeah.
But I said, is a bubble going to burst there? But the other thing we talked about, I would love to see it. I don't know if it would really make any difference, and I'll ask you if you do. I think there should be a breathalyzer in every restaurant that sells alcohol.
Well, the problem becomes is that kids then want to test themselves to see how high they can get. And
I thought of that, too, and I said, college kids are going to do that.
We put out speed numbers at areas where people speed, and they drive to see how fast they can score on the radar, right?
Okay.
So speed camera, different story. We give you the ticket.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you want to challenge me? We're going to give you a ticket.
Right.
But when you look at the bar business, there's two arguments to it. That the kids are going to see how high they get, but you can buy them yourself now.
Yes.
You can, and my wife bought them, gave them to all our kids, said, hey,
Oh, yeah?
just make sure you know what you're doing.
Well, and that's the idea. I would have thought, hey, let's put one up on the wall in the bar. Are people going to use it? No, not all of them. But at least when a guy's walking out the door, somebody goes, hey, you know what, just for the heck of it. And he blows in it and he does a 0.1, 19. Say, hey, dude, you're two
Uber.
times over the limit.
Yeah.
Because I think what people don't realize is you're a 250-pound guy and you have 3 beers. And somebody says, okay, we got to go home. And you say, I'm fine. But you could still be legally drunk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Your definition of what fine is, people don't get that.
No.
Subjective.
I can't be 0.08 because that would be drunk, and I feel okay.
Body weight, what's in your stomach, what you ate, how tired you are, it all factors in.
Lots of variables.
And you know what? It's so easy.
I just think
hit
if
the app.
Yep,
Oh yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But I think if the police department, if we got behind that and we just started, let's do a fundraiser and we're going to put breathalyzers in all the bars. At least it's not just the punitive side that you're on. Now you're saying, hey, we gave you a tool.
And
We gave you a way to know.
Because bars and restaurants, they have to legally not serve people after a certain point, too. There's a culpability for them at times. So I could see how maybe that would benefit the actual establishment.
the
knowing that,
establishment should be happy.
here it is right here. You're too intoxicated. We have to cut you off.
And that's kind of a conflict of interest because they want to sell as much booze as they
sure,
can.
but they also don't want to get a
So
lawsuit for someone getting into a car
But
accident.
I go to a lot of functions at night, retirement parties, and you bounce around. You try to hit a couple every night to say hello to everybody.
Yep.
And when you're in there, our bars here in Nassau County, there are a lot. And a lot of them are very compliant and follow all the rules. There are big restaurants like Mulcahy's, for argument's sake, always compliant, always follows the rules, runs a great program. Most of the bars in that area there in Wantor, no problems.
Yeah.
Farmingdale is a booming industry down there. The mayor, Ekstrom, great guy. He's done some great work down there. He's really vitalized. They got that the secret bar down in the basement from the years ago.
The speakeasy.
Yeah,
that's
Rockville Center, the same thing. They have their own police department, but again, we see no problems. They run a good town, a good community, and you can have a lot of good times, a lot of fun. Just be responsible. Just think about it before you do it. I tell my kids all the time, have your plan in place.
Yeah.
What's your plan? How are you getting home? Who's driving? Who's the designated driver? Or just take the Uber. It's a lot easier.
And that's the other thing, and I think that was probably one of the best, if you're going to drink at all, don't drive.
Yep.
It wasn't about if you're going to drink too much.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Just
You
make
know.
it definitive.
Yeah.
I guess, did we want to follow up a bit about the vaping ban, too? I know that's something personal to you. More the flavor that the county, I guess,
Yeah,
put in.
you know what really ticked me off about the vaping thing? Now, I used vaping to quit smoking. I smoked for like 45 years,
Wow.
a pack a day. 3 years, 4 years now, I haven't had a cigarette. And it's from the vaping thing. And people say, well, why, you think that's healthy? And I said, of course I don't think it's healthy. I'm inhaling a hot gas, but I'm not getting 200 chemicals that I would be getting if I smoked a cigarette. So now we come to find out, or I don't know if it was 45 people died, or
Yeah.
I don't remember
Valley
what the number was.
from,
but the
vitamin
CDC
E.
came out and said, well, we kind of know what it is. People trying to smoke THC in those vape machines, and they used vitamin E to cut the THC. So when you heat up this vitamin E, it turned into some kind of liquid in your lungs, and that's what was doing the thing. But the governor took his broad brush out, and he got rid of all the flavored vapes. And I'm saying, well, so what's the governor telling me? I got to go back to smoking cigarettes? I thought, you identified the problem, and then you still put these guys out of business. I felt bad for the vape companies, too.
Oh, and again, to that point, at the state government level, I believe it's been challenged and it's still being held up before it can be enforced. But can you correct the record for Nassau County? Is that gone into effect as?
So Nassau County has its own local law.
That's what I thought
for the flavored vapes. You got to realize that more than, I think the number was 50% of our middle-aged school kids are vaping.
Yeah.
They're not smoking. They weren't smokers before.
How are they getting it?
Well, they get the older brother to buy it. They buy some
same way with alcohol.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
I was kind of mad at the beginning. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm an old guy. I can't like banana strawberry
Tutti Frutti.
Because they said, oh, it's aimed at the kids. Well, the kids like it because it's a cool. But I like it too.
But it was aimed at the kids, and it's a marketing scheme.
Yeah.
And what they were trying to do is hook these kids. Look, this is big tobacco all over again.
Well,
then they made the Marlboro Man on a horse. He was cool.
But what happened here? We got Juul is the only legal one we got.
Yep.
Right, and the company Atria, which is big tobacco, just spent $399 million to get into Juul. So big tobacco's back in business.
Yep.
And their competition is gone. Wow. If I could write a novel and say this was a really great execution and they got rid of all the competition and our product is... And now they're talking about the menthol. They want to get rid of the menthol because they say that's a...
Yeah. Look, the laws that get passed, why they get passed, it all comes from different ways, different agendas or whatever it is. But from a law enforcement standpoint, they Juul and they put THC into these vape pipes and they get stoned in front of you. We can't smell it. You can't detect it.
No.
So it's not like a marijuana cigarette.
Right.
So that's one problem. Second problem is that we didn't know what that does. That hot steam that goes into your lungs, which caused that popcorn lung thing that happened. And then the kids that have... But all you got to do is look at the volume that comes, and they made it stronger and stronger.
True. The concentration.
It was Cheech and Chong, remember, in the car when they fill the car.
Yeah.
I've seen cars like that right now where the kids are doing vaping, and then and they open the window.
I see it on the
that
highway.
amount of smoke that's going into so. Many of the old-time smokers who are now the antichrist against smokers, right? Oh, my God, right? They're also screaming about vaping. I'm screaming about vaping because an adult can make his own choices, but our kids, they can't. And they did straw banana and strawberry because they were pulling those young kids in.
Exactly.
That was their intent. That's what they made their money on, and it's not cheap to Juul. It's pretty expensive for what it is.
No, they're not. And they also have a fixed level of nicotine in them.
A fixed level that's higher than an actual cigarette.
Exactly.
I think it's 10 milligrams.
But there's also the other ones where people can put in their own nicotine with every higher level of concentration.
I know people that make their own concoctions, but they buy their own flavors and put them together.
You see the little Juul, you see the little vape pipe, and then you see them walking around with the canister.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just pulling out all that stuff into their body.
That's what I was saying. Sometimes I'm on the highway and I think the car's on fire, and I'm like, oh, no, someone's just vaping ahead of me. So
if it's legal and adults make their own choice, that's one thing. But when we start baiting the kids in for it, that's another.
No, that's always the
understandable.
case. Still mad at the governor for doing that.
You have a right to do that. Let's again remind our listeners that they are listening to this week's Long Island News, and we are here with Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder from the Nassau County Police Department, and I'm John Gallo again here with Bill McIntyre.
Great.
So,
okay, now let's talk about how about the green light law, the getting the licenses. What's the downside of that? That people would be up in arms about it happening.
So I don't think the downside has to do with the license. I think they go back to the same argument. Those that are pro-immigration are those who are against immigration, right? So those that are undocumented, they shouldn't get a license, according to some, right? And that's not my position.
Yep. Right.
But I have to deal with the community on a daily basis. So I'm very cautious on working with them. But some people that are against immigration are screaming and yelling because they like, hey, you're giving them a license. The process that they get this license is not the same process that I got to get my license. I got to produce so much data to get my license. A friend of mine was just getting it today. He says, I got to produce so much data to get it. And then someone that's from another country can come in here and get it quicker than me and not produce as much information.
I got the enhanced license.
Yeah, me too, actually.
And it took me, it took me about half an hour.
Yeah.
I think what I read about when an undocumented immigrant goes in and tries to get it, he's got to bring some kind of an affidavit from the IRS that he does not have a Social Security number. If you're undocumented, then fine, but give us that info. And for the enhanced license, you had to bring a bill from your house.
Yeah, it's a little
that was
higher
mailed to your house.
Again, standard to me.
And something else, I mean, I can see the plus side is that you're going to have all of these people paying for licenses. That's
there's a revenue stream, yep.
Yeah.
And look, and there's also those, they still have to pass the driver test.
Right,
so
exactly.
Again.
But as law enforcement, is it better for you when let's say you pull over a guy, that he produces a license? I mean, that doesn't change his status or anything.
No, look, we don't get involved in we only get involved in judicial warrants. As you know, the state no longer does administrative warrants. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's driving a license and we check them, we're checking them for their driving history or if they have any warrants, right?
Yeah.
And then if whatever they committed, that violation will receive a summons. At least we know the person we're giving the summons to is the person that is on that license, and that's their photo that goes with that identification.
Right. Exactly.
We hope that that's all vetted out correctly through DMV. Look, again, it's a complicated response from my side because I'm the law and order guy. It says, hey, but then again, the law and order guy, hey, guy, they got a license. They passed the test.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. From your point of view, is it a better thing that they do have this license and it helps you do your job?
If they're licensed, they pass the driver's test, and they have insurance, it's definitely better than they're unlicensed and drive with no insurance, 100%.
Yeah, the big concern being a lot of times the hit and runs and the cases where people might have fled because they thought of the repercussions, but knowing, like you said, the license.
But the issue is not about that. The issue is about immigration.
Yeah,
of course, again, at the core.
A stance I will not get involved in.
Understandable.
But I will say this is that people have got to, you got to look at both sides. This is what I say, we're so divided right now.
Yep.
And it's either this my way or the highway. And, it's like, look, where's the give and take here? What are we going to do? How it's happening, so how do we deal with it?
Right.
And that's what the problem is now.
Yeah. I think that was just in general with, I blame the administration, but I was, I would say shocked to realize how much hatred was simmering under the, just under the, it stayed cool.
Been a long history
Boom.
of concerns.
Yeah.
I know.
And I'm going to tell you what I'm like caught off. There's still today the lines are 2.5 hours at the DMV because that many people that we've had in this country that didn't have licenses are now getting licenses.
Yeah, coming out of the shadows, as they say.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't know. They were just so up in arms about it when it first came out. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's kind of like the bail law. Mm-hmm. We talked about this.
Yep.
We've had it on a couple of weeks. And my thought was, well, look, it's not like a guy went to work one day and he had a dream and said, this is a great idea. It came about because of a situation where, now you mentioned the kid smoking a joint and he stayed a week in jail. There have been cases where guys have been in for 2 years without being charged with a crime.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, that's something we hear about the gulags, and we don't hear about that in the United States. So it happened enough. And if you're going to point a finger, I would have to say the judicial and maybe law enforcement. If that hadn't existed, we wouldn't have this law.
Yeah. So I think that was a backpack kid. He stole a backpack. He ended up spending almost 2 years in jail. It was in Rikers.
Khalif Browder, I believe.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know all the facts, so I don't know if listen, I don't know if he was lost in the system. I don't know. You don't know the background. Yeah. But I will say this: justice reform has a place. Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. When you take a young kid, let's take a kid on possession of crack, a misdemeanor possession of crack. He's got a disease. He's an addict. He needs help. Now you turn around and you lock him up. We used to get him in front of the diversion judge. Now we're not. Now he walks out. So that's a problem too.
Right,
but at the same point, that guy shouldn't be sitting a week in jail because he can't afford bail and a rich kid can.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That guy should have the same argument for the fact that I need a good lawyer like he gets a good lawyer.
Yeah.
So there's an argument to be made from that side of it. But from my side also, hey, you broke the law. You broke the law. Right. And so we go back and forth. And there should have just been more thought about the decision when to do it. I just sat at 19 legislators yesterday, and I don't think any one of them has a problem with a bail reform, discovery reform, and stuff like that. What we had the problem was that
the way it was done.
It was a broad brush.
Yeah,
you talked about earlier about painting the broad brush on vaping.
Right.
The same thing. A broad brush came in. A bank robber with a criminal history should not be walking out the door.
No.
But the criminal history is no longer included in the process because the judge doesn't have the discretion anymore.
You see that a lot in a lot of things, like in a corporation. They'll call it, well, we're going to streamline the process. So they make an algorithm for a certain part of it, and then there's no bending. It's a blue card, it has to go here. It's a red card, it has to go there. And then at the other end of that, you start to see, oh my God, all of these people are getting hurt with this or getting hurt. That's why when they took the judge out of the equation, I was like, what do we bother having him for?
And look, and we've had judges that are the hammer judge. They always drop the hammer. And you have judges that are the very soft side, or letting people walk out.
Yep.
Every crime is different. Every person is different.
Yes.
Every background is different. It all has to be factored in. And then the biggest part, which everybody talks about bail reform, is the discovery reform. That what they've done to law enforcement, we have 15 days to turn everything over. We average 50 arrests a day in Nassau County. We can't keep up. We just can't keep up. And it's not just the arrest paperwork. It's the evidence to be tested. It's the cameras. It's the video. It's the GPS data. It's the blotters. It's the cop's memo book. It's the internal blotters.
Yeah.
All of that has to be turned over.
That's a state-mandated law that's not funded.
It's not funded, correct.
So that's going to fall on Nassau County if you do it right.
Yeah, we will always do it right.
I mean,
because
some things you can't even do.
We're going to struggle.
Right?
We're going to struggle, but we'll do it right.
And I just would like to ask, though, for some maybe critics, people who would say public defenders have often dealt with a very heavy docket, and there's kind of been a disproportionate kind of workload for them. I guess, like I said, do you see a way that we can turn that tide and eventually catch up to that type of policy kind of prescription, or is it something
not in the way the prescription is written now? They got to change it. And to their credit, and I've been bashing away to the credits of the senators. They're listening.
Yeah.
They got the House, the Assembly is a lot stronger in the fight for one way, and the Senate's starting to look at it and taking a different approach.
Yeah.
You can't just come in and say, boom, here's the numbers, here's how we're doing it. You gotta adjust. You gotta come back, readjust the game plan here, or we're not gonna win.
Yeah.
And we will lose, and crime will go in the wrong direction. My violent crime right now is down in Nassau County, but my property crime has gone up. Those small level crimes that we never put into the system now and get no resource for help.
I see.
Because some take it and some don't. They commit more crimes. About 40% is the recidivism rate. The other ones will come out now and that would go and get that help would be good for us. Now they're not getting any help, so they're just flipping right back out in the street. So that's a problem. So we gotta look at it. We gotta revamp it, and we gotta take another shot at it.
Of course, can't be static. You have to adapt. No. Of course. And have we seen though any actual rates now of recidivism? Has it been enough time to see what that actual kind of change has been?
I told it yesterday to the legis. The data set is way too small.
That's what I imagine. Yeah.
So Jack Maple, he's the creator of CompStat. Everybody talks about CompStat. Of course, we use it in Nassau County. We call it StratCom. But CompStat, and he even said, in a small time period, weather can directly affect crime. Bad guys don't like the cold, just like we don't like the cold. So criminals don't commit crimes in snowstorms. You'll get a couple that are extreme, but most will stay inside trying to wait till the warm day. And so we had a very mild winter, so some of my crime went up. Last year we had a mild winter, though, also. And so I'm comparing apples to apples. Last year during this period, same period this year. So I'm looking at the number, and it has climbed even a little bit higher than it was last year. So I need to take a look at that, why it's going up. Can I say it's directly related to justice reform? No, I can't.
Correlation.
Yeah,
not causation.
But I can definitely say there is a correlation to it.
I understand.
Well, and just a reminder, you're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm sure I didn't do the 5 I was supposed to.
We got enough of them in there. But we are getting down to the kind of final minutes of our interview.
Well, and we
again.
do, you know what? I still do have, so just make me one promise. You'll come back sometime in the future, too.
Anytime.
Because I really enjoy talking to you. I can think of the minute you walk out this door, I'm going to think of 40 questions I could have asked you. But from the looks of it and just what we've been talking about, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We got a great team.
I wouldn't want it.
No.
I certainly
Some
wouldn't
days
want
I don't want it either.
Yeah, well,
I can imagine.
I read the stories and I think about you going, oh, my God.
We always must remember that we speak for the victims that can't speak. We fight for the victims that can't fight. And many other people advocate other ways. So there's going to be indifferences. We're going to battle. Can't take it personal. I just got to keep moving on and doing what I believe is right for the people in Nassau County.
I'm going to ask you what I think is a tough question. We had that horrible thing out in Suffolk County with the 8-year-old boy that with his dad and stuff. If you look at Facebook, and there are horror stories that everybody is contributing about family court and child protective services, which, I mean, they've always been in the sights, because every once in a while you just hear about a kid that got lost in the system and this happened and that happened. My curiosity was the dad getting custody of these kids, and I'm wondering if the fact that he was identified as a police officer gave the judges a different view, so that when these two people came in front of his bench, he was more inclined just to let me go with the cop. So, because they are backed up too. So what he wants to do is get rid of people in front of him.
Right.
Okay, I look at hey, he's a cop, she's an immigrant, okay, give the kids to him and let's next, kind of thing.
So we actually had a couple of cases here with that family. Most of them were the child was returned late, an overstay on the visitation issues.
Right, that's squabbling between parents.
And none of them had any violence. One, there was an accusation that something was happening. It was checked out, and it was all negative. But sometimes there's got to be flags in the system. That flags, when you have multiple complaints like this, we got to stop and say, hey, they might be unfounded, but is there something going on here? And it may not be.
Right.
And again, it's a tough job for those judges. It's a tough job for the Child Protective Services. There are so many cases. One of the numbers that we always look at is our domestics. And we report domestics right to the commanding officer at every precinct. They're responsible for our domestics that occur within their precincts. It's always a high number. How do you lower it? It's getting into the family. It's getting into people's homes. Yeah. It's not easy to do.
No, it's not, of course.
We talk about taking someone's doorbell ring, and we're saying we're infringing on the rights. Yeah. Now we're in somebody's home.
Exactly.
But we got to do more for the kids. You got to. And again, police should, across the board, everybody can take blame on this, because neighbors, parents, friends, the kids, the law enforcement, the courts, everybody
saw something.
Yeah. And you see that with school shootings. Every time something happens, they come back and say, we knew something, we didn't say something.
One of the other things that drives me nuts is when something happens in a school and the teacher can't take care of it, they call the police on a 6th grader or a 6-year-old. It's just like, come on. But anyway, I think we're
just about there. If there's anything just that you wanted to close with, anything that we should be watching the community in the next kind of weeks and months to follow along?
So I think we'll see some changes coming from Albany regarding justice reform. I hope we are.
Yeah.
Remember that we're out there. The police department, you see a lot of negative against the police, that goes on in dumping water and stuff like that. And we've been spinning that story several different times.
That's another one I wanted to.
The Nassau County Police Department is a professional police department that wants to go out and protect the served, and they take their oath very seriously. But if you have a complaint, you can bring it to us. We'll investigate it. Every complaint gets investigated. Our cops want to do the right thing. They're out there hustling. Our crime, historic lows. Yeah. That's not because of me. That's because the men and women that wear the blue uniform and do a job every day.
Very cool. Well, we want to thank you for coming and just being so open and ready. And let's go have a cup of coffee and continue the conversation. What do you think?
Oh, you got it.
I still back to his wife, too, for Valentine's Day.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Trying to get me divorced.
We'll see you next time right here on 90.3 WHPC. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Nominated for 8 national awards from the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System,
including 2020 Community College Radio Station of the Year.
The voice of Nassau Community College.
This is the award-winning 90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD Garden City.
Available anytime on your smart speaker.
Play WHPC.
And anywhere on iHeartRadio.